You're good.
I call this meeting to order. We would like to begin by acknowledging that the land in which we gather is a traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, the Ottawa, and Mississaugas people. I would just like to acknowledge that Councillor Palmer sends his regrets he cannot be here tonight. Confirmation of the agenda that the Council of Township of North Huron hereby accept the agenda for the October 3rd, 2022 council meeting as presented. Do I have a, I believe that goes to Carson because we have to,
If you wanna get a mover and a seconder first, your worship, and then I can take over from there.
okay, thank you. So Paul's moving, seconder please. Anita seconds, thank you. Carson, your turn.
Thank you, your worship. So Deputy Reevesite,
Yes.
Councillor Falconer,
Yes.
Councillor Heffer,
Yes.
Councillor Van Hittersum,
Yes.
Councillor McBurney,
Yes.
and Reeve Bailey.
Yes,
So that motion carries 6-0.
thank you. Just before we go any further, because we're doing this through video, if I don't catch your hands, please speak up, okay, councilors? Thank you. Disclosure of pecuniary interest, are there any? Go ahead, Deputy Reevesite.
Thank you, Reeve. Just want to declare a conflict on the bills and accounts. Check number 508515 is written out to my wife Tiffany for expenses relating to the daycare, as she's an employee of the municipality in the daycare department. And I will be providing the necessary paperwork to the clerk after this meeting.
Thank you. Anyone else? Not hearing, we shall move forward. Number 4 is public comments. This is an opportunity for any member of the public to speak on an item of business that's on this agenda. And there is a 2-minute limit per person. Is there anyone out there that would like to speak? And I'm not hearing Carson say anything, so we'll move on. Consent agendas. Consent agendas. Just before we I call mover and seconder, I'd like to point out 5.3.1. I was hoping the Council of North Huron would endorse this and send it back to Huron County. I see Paul shaking his head. Are we okay with that? Go ahead, Anita. You're good? And I see everybody.
Yeah, I'm good. Yes, please.
Thank you. So is there anyone else who would like to pull anything out?
Yes, I would like, please.
Yes, go ahead, Anita.
5.1.1, the regular council meetings at number 9.2. I just need a little correction. I provided an update regarding the Physicians Recruitment Committee and not the Hospital Foundation.
Thank you. Anyone else? Not seeing any, then that the Council of Township of North Huron hereby adopts consent items 5.1.1, and further the Council of Township of North Huron hereby receives consent items 5.1.2 to 5.3.3 for information with amendments. Do I have a mover?
Yeah, so Reeve Bailey, if I may, I guess, so if I can make a suggestion to that motion there, that the Council of the Township of North Huron adopts consent item 5.1.1 as amended. And so we will make the necessary changes to those minutes. And further that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby receives consent items 5.1.2 to 5.3.3 exclusive of 5.3.1 for information purposes.
Thank you. Do I have a mover? I have Rick moving. Seconder, please. Anita is seconding. All in favor? Carries. Thank you. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was a little
Carson,
slow
over to
on
you.
the mute button. My apologies, your worship. So I will require a recorded vote on that one.
Yes. So I do have a mover and seconder, so I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, your worship. So Councillor Falconer,
Yes.
Councillor Heffer,
Yes.
Councillor Van Hittersum,
Yes.
Councillor McBurney,
Yes.
Deputy Reevesite,
Yes.
and Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that motion carries 6-0. So now, seeing as you pulled 5.3.1 to take separate action on that, I'd be looking for a motion that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby supports the resolution regarding the County of Huron's proposal for Ontario federal electoral boundaries.
Do I have a mover? I have Paul moving, seconder please. Rick is seconding, and I'll hand it back over to you, Carson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Heffer,
Yes.
Councillor Van Hittersum,
Yes.
Councillor McBurney,
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Sight,
Yes.
Councillor Falconer,
Yes.
and Reeve Bailey.
Yes,
So that motion carries 6-0.
thank you kindly. 6.1. 6.1 is William Wallace and Jeff Ashcroft to talk about the United Way Connection Center. Gentlemen, if you can turn your cameras on, and then whichever one of you would like to speak, you may start.
You want me to go first? Okay, this is Jeff Ashcroft here. And this is to have the North Huron Town Council add their voice to a call for a review of the placement and possible opening of a connection center proposed by the United Way and St. Paul's Anglican Church located at 19 John Street East in Wingham, Ontario. And that the construction and opening be placed on hold pending a review of the concerns of the citizens of the township and the neighborhood.
Can everyone hear us?
Yes, sir.
Excellent, thank you. To continue, this center to be opened as soon as construction has been completed, proposed in 2022, has been portrayed as a 3-day-a-week, 5-hour-per-day drop-in center, offering showers, laundry facilities, food and food bank access, legal and social counseling, and assistance with finding permanent, affordable, safe housing for people at risk, both with financial hardship, mental illness, and drug addiction.
This proposed location, agreed to by the United Way of Perth Huron, based in Stratford, and St. Paul's Church in Wingham, was not revealed to the Town Council before the announcement at a BIA meeting on August 18th, 2022, nor was it discussed with the immediate neighbors to the church. Other locations of these connection centers are in Stratford, Exeter, and Listowel. All of these communities have local detachments of the OPP, and Wingham does not. There are legitimate and real safety concerns for the residents and the youth of this community who will be in very close proximity to the guests of this center we'll be working with. These guests are experiencing a lack of permanent housing, mental health challenges in a varying degree and severity, and drug addiction issues.
I would like to point out that I would like to make amendment to those notes, as I did find out recently that it was not required by the United Way nor the United Church to notify Huron Township Council of their plans. So this was something that was made recently aware to us, and we just wanted to clarify that we were aware of that as well. So in conclusion, the United Way and St. Paul's Church have not submitted a plan for the security and safety of the citizens of North Huron and the Township of Wingham. Requests for such a plan, discussed at an information meeting, requested and initiated by the neighbors living on Center Street and John Street, who would be most directly impacted with the opening and the potential opening of this center, were told that there would be a reaction, and I use that word in quotes, to any possible scenarios that could be considered dangerous and or harmful to both staff, guests, and the people in the neighborhood. We would respectfully request that the Town Council of North Huron request an actionable plan from the United Way, the Choices for Change, which is the entity that has been hired to run this center and the day-to-day operations, and St. Paul's Church for the safety and the security of the citizens of the township. Thank you very much, Council. This concludes our presentation.
Thank you. I'm just wondering if there's any staff members that could speak to the bylaws and that, and I apologize for catching you off guard because I believe all the bylaws and everything that we had to abide by were taken care of. So can anybody address this gentleman's concerns? And sir, if they can't, I do apologize. We will get back to you.
Thank you.
So Reeve Bailey, Hannah
Yes.
is on the line here. She could certainly speak to it from a zoning perspective.
Thank you very much, Hannah.
All right. Thank you. Through the Reeve. And I did also, I was able to meet with William last week. And we did discuss that. I can speak to this from a zoning bylaw and planning perspective, that this particular use is a permitted use on the subject property of the church, which is zoned community facility. So this type of use is permitted. So at least from a planning perspective, under the Planning Act, because it is permitted, they're not required to do a zoning bylaw amendment. And in that case, there was no public notice required because they didn't need to do a Planning Act application. So that's a bit of background from a zoning perspective. So happy to answer any other questions related to planning.
Thank you very kindly. Okay, I think I'll open it up to council now. If there's any questions, concerns, comments that anybody would like to make. And again, speak out. Go ahead, Deputy Reeve Sight.
Thank you, Reeve. In response to the conversation or the question about the policing response, I have sent as a police services board chair communication to the detachment commander at here in OPP. Got him in touch with Choices for Change as well as the United Way in order to discuss. I know William and the citizens have had extensive conversations about some of the concerns with the United Way. So I've asked the OPP detachment commander to connect with Choices for Change as well as the United Way in order to see if there is an actionable plan or a way that they can support the changes or something that they can help alleviate some of the concerns as it relates to these residents on Center Street and John Street. Because the Police Services Act and the council has turned the police board is no longer going to be ineffective on December 31st. I'm making very clear to the council here, as well as the William and the other presenter here tonight, that I am going to be continuing to have follow up with the OPP as to relates to how those communications have been going. So just to let you guys know, and hopefully they reach out again to you once they've had their conversations. I don't know if they have or not, but I'm going to follow up with them probably late this week or early next to see what progress has been made, if any.
Okay, we have yet to receive.
Any other councillors? Go ahead, Anita.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, I understand your concerns. We are also, the John Street is a really major route to all the schools that are in Wingham. And I understand that that is kind of difficult. And regarding the police, I think we should be proactive and not reactive, as is what United Way is talking about. Also, last year we had a presentation from the United Way, and I'm a little bit disappointed that they didn't do any updates in the meantime, so that more people were aware of that they were going to do this, and what the location would be, and because last year that was all not really clear yet. Yeah, that's and for the new cannabis store in town, we needed all kinds of bylaws and regulations, and they needed to be far away from schools. Meanwhile, cannabis stores are doing fine. There's, in my what I know about them, there's not any violence or thing going on around those stores. So it's like, yeah, something like that is a community facility. And don't get me wrong, I absolutely believe in taking care of people who have difficulty in the community, absolutely. But the lack of communication from United Way is a little bit concerning for me. Thank you.
Well, just before I go to you, I'm going to speak to that on what I know about what happened here. So it wasn't a matter of United Way not wanting to talk to anybody, and you gentlemen were there the night this was explained. One of the representatives that were looking for funding for United Way was at a BIA meeting, and before the proper timing to announce it because they needed to talk to you folks and they needed to further a little further. She had said at the BIA that it was going to be there. So that caught United Way staff off guard because obviously it looks like they went the long way around. And Jeff and William, you guys were at the meeting and this was explained to us. It was not the way they would normally do business, but they were kind of playing leapfrog now, trying to catch up. So the original plan was to discuss this with neighbors and bring this forward just as a catch up so that we understand the United Way was not doing anything behind anybody's back. It was a slip up by an employee. Having said that, I believe, Paul, you had your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Reeve. Yes, I'd really appreciate that Deputy Reeve Sype will be able to give us an update of what transpires from the OPP. So things are out in the open, okay? Thank you.
William, just before I go back to you, I just want to make sure no other councillors want to speak. Go ahead, Kevin.
Thank you. Through you, Reeve. It's probably a question for Carson. Either the United Way or the St. Paul's Church, in an endeavor like this, are they required to bring it to council?
Thank you, Councillor Falconer. So through Reeve Bailey, the short answer is no. The only requirement or the only reason this came to council in the first place, I guess, would be because they were requesting funds from council in the form of a donation. As long as it's compliant with the zoning, council would not need to interact with this initiative whatsoever. Again, staff, we might have interacted with it and may still provide their plans if they require a building permit. But beyond that, if it's a permitted use under our zoning bylaw, we wouldn't currently see anything at council.
Thank you.
Other councillors, does anyone want to speak up? Not seeing any. Okay, Mr. Wallace, I am going to come over to you. My apologies, but we have to do it the way it's done. Thank you.
Absolutely, Reeve. Not at all. Thank you for your time and for the council's time. To the question that was just posed, whether or not council needed or was required to be aware of such an endeavor, I would respectfully suggest that that is a change that the new council could make. That if there are going to be public funds given to a social agency, that the social agency be required to present a timely and a fully informative result of what those funds are for. To your point, Reeve, that the disclosure of this, however ill-timed, was very bad optics and very bad perception. And I also do not believe that there were anything nefarious going on here. However, I also don't think that it's reasonable that public funds would be handed to any entity without some kind of summary of what those funds were being used for.
Just to follow up on that, and then I'll hand it over to Councillor Faulkner. We were told about the fundraising. We knew what it was for. We just did not know the location because they were working on several locations. So at the time when we did that, honestly, we did know about it. Go ahead, Councillor Faulkner.
Thank you. Through you, Reeve. Another question back to Carson. I guess a financing question. Have there been any North Huron public funds diverted to this project?
Yes, so through you, Reeve Bailey, to answer Councillor Falconer's question, if you recall, I believe in November or December of last year, representatives from the United Way had attended council requesting funds, and actually it could have been this year, but it was either $5,000 or $10,000 in funding from our community safety and well-being plan allocation towards this initiative.
Okay, thank you.
Deputy Reeve Sype.
Yeah, just to follow up to Councillor Faulkner, it was 5,000 that we as council directed to them based on the understanding of what the service was going to be offered. not the location. And just to answer, I know William was going to ask that, or he had commented quickly that he had not heard anything as of yet by the OPP or the United Way or Choice for Change. As I said, I will make sure and follow up to make sure that those communications are ahead and that are passed on to you as to what the decisions are being made and how those decisions will affect maybe your concerns or not. And I will make sure that I am copied on those conversations only for the reason of bringing back the information to council so that they are aware that these discussions have been had and have been transferred to the concerned residents of that area.
And if I could just ask the staff, just in case we're into an election, just in case something changes, staff, could you make sure that the new council gets the information as well as William and Jeff here? Go ahead, Mr. Wallace.
Thank you, Reeve. Thank you all very much. That's exactly what I was going to request. I appreciate that concern, Reeve, and thank you for mentioning that to be placed into the minutes.
Thank you. Is there anything further? Okay, we hope to have a resolution to this, and we'll all meet another day, or some of us will be with you another day, and we'll discuss this further. So I want to thank you, gentlemen, for coming out, and have a good evening, and we'll carry on with our council meeting now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, 7, we have no clerk's report, no finance report, no rec report, no public works report, no fire report. Is it just about the end of our term or something? Anyway. 7.6.1 is a request for support for the Festival of Lanterns. Are there any questions for this one? Not seeing any. Can I have a mover and seconder for CS-2022-12 request for support for the Festival of Lanterns? Could I have a mover, please? Paul moves. Second, please. Seconder. Rick McBurney seconds. All in favor. Oh. Carson?
Thank you, Your Worship. So Councillor Van Hittersum,
Yes.
Councillor McBurney,
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Sight,
Yes.
Councillor Falconer,
Yes.
Councillor Heffer,
Yes.
and Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that motion carries 6-0.
Thank you very kindly. 7.6.2. Dimitri is going to give us a presentation on the jobs posting analyst for North Huron. And I'm going to hand it over to you now, Dimitri.
Thank you. Good evening, councillors and Reeve. Carson, do I have the ability to share my screen?
Yep, you should now, Dimitri.
Okay. Okay, I'm just going to move some tiles around here. All right, so good evening, Council and Reeve. The report in front of you today is about a job postings analysis that I've been working on for the last couple months. Earlier this year in June and July, I requested access to a tool called Lightcast TM. It used to be called MZ Analyst, and that was through OMAFRA. And what that tool does is it provides data on workforce, labor force, business counts, and then also on job postings. And so what I've done is this is an analysis of the North Huron area. And what I'm going to go through really right now over the next 10 to 15 minutes is a more in-depth analysis of what you received in the report to council. Some of you have also already seen this through the Economic Development Committee, but I just want to present to all the council and to the more general public through this meeting. Okay, so the whole purpose of this was, we've all walked by downtown. We've heard from friends, family, colleagues that there's a job shortage. There's lots of job vacancies. People can't hire. So what the purpose of this was to look at what we've been hearing, and then look at what the data says. And then after we've looked at what the data says, then we can create more realistic models and strategies for actually dealing with the current job crisis. So we've heard the terms great resignation before, right? A lot of people stepping away from jobs. We know that businesses are understaffed. There was a report that came out of StatsCan earlier, looking at early 2022, and you'll see that figure shortly. But essentially, we have the highest recorded job vacancies in the history of Canada. And even with businesses trying to adapt, the problem persists. So what are the potential factors? And I'm sure I could have listed more on this slide here, but we know that CERB might have changed the way that people think about work. We know that consumer behavior has changed over the last 2 years, with people ordering online more often, and maybe they're not comfortable to go back to the stores, or maybe it's just more convenient for them not to, so they've continued that consumer behavior. We know that some people might have taken early retirement, and actually there was a session today that I participated in through EDAC, which is the Economic Development Association of Canada. And that presentation was with Deloitte was giving a presentation on the state of the economy. And they did allude to, they saw people taking early retirement. And even though there was an uptick in the amount of young people entering the workforce, it didn't compensate for the amount of people taking early retirement. So we know that that actually happened. And then the parents not going back to work, maybe that has to do with parents being at home while their kids were learning remotely, and that changing the way that they viewed work as well, and spending time with their kids. We also know that earlier this year, Brightspan came to council and presented on this exact topic. And so I guess let's get into the data now. So this is that job vacancies report from Statistics Canada, and this is looking at nationally what's been happening with the job statistics. So as you can see, starting in late 2020, there's been a massive uptick in the number of job vacancies across Canada. So this is the absolute number on the y-axis. You can see ranging up to 1 million. So we're almost at 1 million job vacancies across the country. Whereas earlier, 2018, 2019, pre-pandemic, it was hovering just between 500 to 600,000. So going from there, what we're going to look at for North Huron, we're going to look at the total unique job postings over the last 5 years. We're going to break it down by occupation type, and then we're going to look more specifically at the different occupation types. And so this is not occupation data, this is industry data. And more often than not, you'll actually see within economic development, people will use the industry data more often. The reason we're not doing that is because at the bottom here in the last row, you can see unclassified. A very large portion of the industry data for job postings are unclassified, meaning we don't know which industry those job postings were actually in. So we don't want to come to any conclusions based on using only 50% of the data. It really just wouldn't give us an accurate picture and a reliable picture of where the job postings are. So for that reason, we're using the occupation data. So this is over the last 5 years, starting in the beginning of 2018, the number of job postings per quarter in North Huron. So this is specific to North Huron. You can see in the fourth quarter of 2020, there was a major uptick. So we're hovering for the 3 years before the pandemic around 15 to 20 number of jobs being posted per quarter, so every 3 months, and then that went up to around 30, so 1.5 times as many. There was a brief pause at the end of 2021, and I think that was just businesses unsure about what the future looked like and not wanting to hire anyone, because that was the latest lockdown. I think it went from about December 2021 into early 2022. But we're back up by June, July to 30 job postings a quarter. So then what I did is I broke down all that data by specific occupation types. This is the highest level that you're allowed to break down. You're able to break down data into occupation types. What you notice is the 3 top occupation types are the trades and transport, sales and service, and the health industries. Health, there wasn't a lot of job postings until 2021. It was not in one of the top 3 until in 2021. And trade and transport and sales and service occupations have stayed higher for longer. So these are the 3 that we're going to look into in more detail. So now these are those 3 occupation types broken down by quarter. And you can just see getting into the end, starting at the end of 2020, the increased frequency of job postings within these three occupations here. Excuse me. So now looking more specific into each of those occupations. So before we were looking at the 1-digit occupation level, now we're looking at the 3-digit. So we get to look much more specifically at the types of occupations that there's a demand for, or at least a lot of job postings for. And from this, the way the percentages work out is these top 4, I'm not sure if it's 4 or 5. These top occupations represent 71% of all job postings in trades and transport. And then in the report, you'll see the next sentence is 18%. And so what that means is it says in 18% of total job postings. So essentially 1 in 5 postings in North Huron is one of these occupations, one of these top 4 or 5 occupations in trades and transport. Then we can look at sales and service. Again, a much more in-depth breakdown of the types of occupations within the sales and service industry. And these top 5 postings make up 63% of all job postings within the sales and service occupation, and 16% of all the total job postings in North Huron. And then when we look at the health occupations, these top 4 make up 81% of the total health occupations and 9% of all job postings in North Huron. So there's not as many different classifications for health occupations as there are for trades and transport and sales and service. So that's why you don't see as many in the chart here. So now when we just look overall at the more specific level, drilling down a little bit further, I wanted to look at what are the top 10 occupations. So going back and not just looking at sales, service, trades and transport or health, but looking across the board more specifically. What you see here is these are the top 10 occupations by unique job postings over the last 5 years. Of these top 10, 6 of them are within those 3 occupations that we just dove into earlier, the sales, service, trades, transport, and health. And what you see here in the chart is the total number of job postings here over the last 5 years, and then the total percent that makes up of all of the jobs that have been posted in the last 5 years. So almost 1 in 10 jobs posted in North Huron are for heavy equipment operators, right? I mean, I'm rounding up by 1.5%, but you get the point. It's a lot of the jobs are that heavy equipment operator. And yeah, so again, just to kind of put some numbers on the screen, a little more statistics. So over the 4.5-year period, there were 365 job postings in North Huron. There was 85 different occupation levels. So that's these 3-digit NOx codes, which is National Occupation Classification. So there's 85 different types of occupations. And these top 10 account for 140 out of those 365. So 42.9% of the total jobs posted. The whole idea behind this is if we want to solve the vacancy problem, we want to understand how we maximize our efforts. So if we know where we can put a lot of the focus on and fill a good portion of jobs, focusing on specific areas or occupations or sectors, it'll be more bang for our buck, whatever initiatives we are involved with or funding that we go after. And so this is also just, I guess, more interesting information. This is just a breakdown of the salary that was advertised in all job postings across North Huron, I believe. So you can see that some of these top postings are in the higher paid positions. There's not as many job postings. And this is where the sales, service, trades, transport, health occupations sit in terms of whether they're above or below the median advertised salary for job positions in North Huron. So takeaways from this report: has the frequency of job postings increased? Yes. So I think we can say that what we've been hearing anecdotally, we also see represented within the data. What are the top occupation categories within North Huron? It's those 3 that we mentioned: the trades, transport, and equipment operators, sales and service, and health occupations. When we drill down, to the higher digit levels. We do see some of those occupation trends holding. Now, one thing, less job postings in 2022. So what you'll see here is in these top 10, there's not that many job postings in 2022 across these top 10. Not sure what that means. The reports don't really tell us what that means. It could be that they filled the positions. It could be they're no longer hiring for those positions, so they've withdrawn the job ads. It could be that those job postings are still active. So maybe they made the job postings active in the late portion of 2021, and the way that the Lightcast TM software, the way that it works is that, and the reason it's called unique job postings is because once a posting is up, it doesn't recount it every month, so that you're not recounting postings that are on there and haven't been filled. So it could be those, it could be more factors, not sure, but that was something interesting that the data showed was in these top 10, not as many postings in 2022. Again, today at that EDAC conference, we the first seminar was on ECEs and the lack of support across Canada. So this is, again, EDAC stands for Economic Development Association of Canada. And yeah, nationally, we heard from people this morning saying they're having the same problem. People can't get back to work because they have no childcare. And there was a presentation as well last Economic Development Committee, and from the local hospital saying the same thing. They have a lot of nurses that would like to get back to work, but there's no childcare options, and that's because ECEs are in high demand and short supply right now. So what's next? I'm going to continue this analysis at the regional and provincial level. I have data at the county level for Huron County, also two adjacent counties, I believe Bruce County and Perth. So what I'm going to do is see if these trends hold. And the reason I'm going to look at the regional level is because there's an opportunity here. Everyone's thinking about this. There's funding for it. There's an opportunity to potentially partner with groups like the 4-County Labor Market Planning Board, Community Futures, Huron Manufacturing Association, Huron County ECDEV, Huron Chamber of Commerce, local school boards, etc. You get the point. If we can partner and we're all facing the same issues, when we go to higher levels of government asking for funding for programs, whether that's to maybe it's marketing, maybe it's just getting this information out there, whatever it is to try and fill these positions or incent people to take these types of jobs, strength in numbers is definitely a good approach when it comes to government funding. So at a more regional level, it encourages more of our regional partners to get involved if they're seeing the same things. So I believe that's all I had. I can stop the share here, and I'm open to any questions from councillors on this.
Thank you, Dimitri. Just before I send it to open council, I just want to comment on a few things. When I was first elected last time around, we had started the acute labor shortage, and COVID, of course, changed a lot of things in all of our lives. But it was put together with Morris Turnberry ourselves, and South Bruce joined in. So we were looking at 120 people without jobs, and we needed to. And these are factory jobs. And so I want to point out to council why I'm talking 120. Dimitri's only talking such smaller numbers. This was a North Huron paid for, North Huron driven. So it's about North Huron. We have to remember that at the acute labor shortage, only one factory was in North Huron, even though I took the lead on it. And so all the other ones you see, Brightspan and the different greens and all that, they're not in North Huron. They're in Morris Turnberry. But we all did sit down at the same table, and we all did work together on this. And Mayor Buckle from South Bruce came along and seen what a great job it was. So his team joined too. And then we were all working on it, and then COVID hit. My understanding is, just so everybody understands, is we're still in the same situation with our factories. It's not like all of a sudden 120 people are taking care of them working. So as we develop this, we need to work with, as Dimitri said, we'd love to work with our partners around and come to solve something about this. Just wanted to clarify the numbers so you understood. Okay, let's open it up to council. Who'd like to speak? Not see. Oh, go ahead, Deputy Reeve Sipe.
I think we actually, I mean, it's nice to see the numbers that anecdotally match to what we believe is going on in the market. I think the takeaway from us is, at least the takeaway from me is, we need to find out what the key reasons for these unfilled jobs are. And one of them, as indicated by Dimitri, was the lack of childcare spaces. And I think we have to be proactive in the sense we have to advocate to the province and the federal government that, you know, it's fine to provide funding for a $10 a day daycare, but if you have no ECEs to cover it, you're not getting any more childcare spaces. So we need to recognize that in order to have childcare spaces, you need to have childcare workers. And if we can't get childcare workers, it don't matter if it's $10 a day or free. There ain't going to be more spaces, which means it's not going to free up people to go back to their employment. So we need to advocate to the province that says, what are we doing in order to make that? Because I consider that a trade. I mean, how are we advocating to people in universities and colleges that these are good, well-paying jobs? And I think the problem is right now in society, they're not. They're not well-paying jobs. So I think that's the concern that we have to recognize and we have to go into, that says that advocacy has to happen in order for us to become successful in filling those positions, but also to get more spaces. As we know, Blythe would more than willing to have more spaces. I know people in Wingham would love to have more spaces as well. I think that's a reality that we have.
Okay, thank you. Someone else? Anyone else? Not seeing anyone. Last chance for conversation. Dimitri, I want to thank you very much for this very thorough report. It's the kind of stuff that can help us move when it comes to building houses. And we talk about what need we have for houses. You're pointing it out very clearly for anybody that wants to come and build a subdivision in this area. The house and the financial restraints that household would have to build a house, and therefore build one to what were needed in the area, and that type of stuff. These are the reports that'll help us all move along. Okay, I want to thank you very kindly. Have a good night.
You do have a question here from Councillor McBurney.
I do apologize, Rick, go ahead.
No problem, Reed Bailey. Thank you. I'd just like to thank Dimitri for the report he just showed us. It was quite informative. Anyway, thank you. Thank you, Dimitri.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to go to that the Council of Township of North Huron hereby receives a report of the Economic Development Officer dated October 3rd, 2022 regarding a job posting analyst of North Huron for information. Do I have a mover? I have Rick moving, Kevin seconding, and I'll hand it over to you, Carson.
Thank you, Your Worship. So Councillor McBurney,
Yes.
Deputy Reeve-Site,
Yes.
Councillor Falconer,
Yes.
Councillor Heffer,
Yes.
Councillor Van Hittersum,
Yes.
and Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that motion carries 6-0.
Okay. Thank you very kindly. The next on the agenda is the CEO 2022-16 electronic monitoring policy. You've all had a chance to read. Is there any questions you would like to ask? Alyssa can answer them if you have any questions on this. Okay. I'm not seeing any questions. Go ahead, Councillor Faulkner.
Well, thank you. Through you, Reeve. Question ahead on the monitoring system is, does staff know if we require upgrading on our systems? If this is going to be a policy, do we have means and the equipment to do this monitoring now, or is this an expense that we have to take into consideration for the future budget? Maybe, I don't
Sorry.
know, anyone can answer that one or staff, I don't care.
Or, at this time, this policy is just to disclose how and in what circumstances employee data is collected or monitoring. We don't need to enhance or change the way we are monitoring or monitoring staff at this time, so there won't be any expenses incurred.
Any other questions? Okay, go ahead, Paul. You're muted.
Yes, through you, Reeve. This for Allison, like it was made very clear on there that it's a provincial legislation that we have to do this, right?
Yes, sorry, this is a provincial legislation that we have to comply with.
Yeah. Anyone else? Not seeing any then. The CO-2022-16 electronic monitoring policy. Do I have a mover? Deputy Site moving, seconder, please. Rick, Kevin Faulkner seconds. I'll hand it over to you, Carson.
Thank you, Your Worship. So Deputy Reeve Site,
Yes.
Councillor Falconer,
Yes.
Councillor Heffer,
Yes.
Councillor Van Hittersum,
Yes.
Councillor McBurney,
Yes.
and Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that motion carries 6-0.
Thank you. Correspondence, we have none tonight. Council reports. Does any council have any reports they want to do? We're going to start with the Reeves activity report. And actually tonight, I don't have a report. It's been a quiet couple of weeks. And I've rather enjoyed it. So, so we're going to go to the council committee reports. These are verbal or written reports from members who sit on boards or committees. Anyone have anything they want to report? Go ahead, Anita.
Thank you very much, Reeve. We had the Maitland Valley Conservation Authority meeting. We had a tour of the Jacobson Restoration Project. That's another example of restorations of the waterway with support of private landowners after a mill was not used anymore. Our chair and vice chair and Phil Beard all had their annual meeting with our MPP Lisa Thompson regarding the memorandum of understanding with the conservation authorities where we are working on. 14 out of the 15 municipalities are moving forward with the mandatory memorandum. Wellington North is waiting for the memorandum of understanding from the other conservation authority in their area. So they will have a separate agreement. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Go ahead, Deputy Site.
Yes, Reeve, I just wanted to give an update to council as it relates to the mural project. That's been sent from council to both the Wingham BIA as well as the Wingham Community Connectors. I have been chosen to be the chair of that subcommittee of those two committees. So we had a meeting in early September to go through what that mural is going to potentially look like, what size of it is, all those types of things. We have a meeting tomorrow night to discuss finalizing what we would like that sign to be a vision of, as well as go through some of the other steps in order to continue to work on completing that project. That project is expected to be finished expected to be finished by March of 2023. So I just wanted to pass on that information on to council at this point.
Thank you kindly. Go ahead, Anita.
Yes, thank you, Reeve Bailey. I have actually a question for the Deputy Reeve. Do you know that mural, is that going on, will it be painted on the walls or will it be a thing on a frame? So that it's easy to remove and that it's not such an eyesore when it's starting to deteriorate after years.
It is expected to be on a board connected to the,
okay,
not painted onto the arena. That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Not seeing any. We're gonna go to comments by members. Is there any just comments anyone has to say or anything you're curious about? Go ahead, Paul.
Yes, through you, Reeve. Yeah, I just neglected last meeting to mention about Pete Mulvey looked after cleaning of the streets in Wayham again, and it wasn't near as bad as what it was in the springtime. So they're going to be examining whether to go with this once a year or still do it the twice a year. But I just say kudos to him and the ones that were involved with it. Just a thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Heffer. Yes, I'm sure we all agree. We really, really appreciate the people that support our communities and volunteer. Without them, I don't know where we'd be. Go ahead, Deputy Reeves.
Yes, Reeve, I just wanted to pass along my thanks to the Huron Chamber of Commerce from last week's Thursday's all candidates meeting. Based on the size of the population that we have and the and what we had at that meeting, I think it's safe to say that it was a well attended, well documented place where people can get information as it relates to the candidates that are running for North Huron Council. And I just want to reiterate and thanks to the Huron Chamber of Commerce for putting that on and broadcasting it so that people who may not have been able to go and see it still have the ability to go to see it, even though there was some technical stuff with sound at the start. But I mean, at the end of the day, I think something is better than nothing. So I appreciate their support or their support in North Huron's upcoming election.
Thank you. Anyone else? Not seeing any. We'll move on. There's no notice of motion tonight. 10.1 is the council remuneration and expenses bylaw, and I'm going to hand it over to Carson for a read.
Yeah, if you want to get a mover and a seconder first, Your Worship.
Well, I can do that for you, Carson. Do I have a mover and seconder? I have Kevin moving and Rick McBurney seconding.
Thank you, Your Worship. So, Councillor Falconer,
Yes.
Councillor Heffer,
No.
Councillor Van Hittersum,
Yes.
Councillor McBurney, Deputy Reeve Sight,
Yes.
and Reeve Bailey.
Yes.
So that motion carries 5-1 with the no being Councillor Heffer.
Thank you. 11 are announcements. The next regular council meeting will be held on Monday, October 17th, 2022 at 6 p.m. at the North Huron Town Hall Theatre. A special council meeting, year-to-date meeting, will be held on Friday, October 28th, 2022 at 9 a.m. at the North Huron Town Hall Theatre. The next Wingham BIA board meeting will be held on Thursday, October 20th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. in the Hot Stove Lounge at the North Huron West Cass Community Complex. Last regular scheduled meeting. The next BIA board meeting will be held on Thursday, October 27th, 2022 at 8 a.m. at the Blythe District Community Center. And again, this is the last scheduled meeting. And the reason they are is because there will be a change of council and all committees have to be reignited. Okay, moving on. Other business, I don't see any. Closed session reporting out that the Council Township of North Huron hereby proceeds at 6:54 p.m. to the in-camera session closed to the public under section 239-2-F of the Municipal Act to discuss the following. Advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, Westerro Power Inc., and further that the CEO Evans and Clerk Lamb remain in attendance. Do I have a mover? I have Deputy Site moving. Seconder is Nita Van Hittersum. Carson.
Thank you, Your Worship. So, Councillor Heffer,
Yes.
Councillor Van Hittersum,
Yes.
Councillor McBurney,
Yes.
Deputy Reeve Sight,
Yes.
Councillor Falconer,
Yes.
and Reeve Bailey. So that motion carries 6-0. So if council wants to exit the open session, and we will flip over to the closed.
Thank you kindly.